I'm now going to move on to our panel, and they're going to talk about the question of perspectives on why connected communities as a programme matters. They're each going to speak for 5 minutes maximum, just a reminder to the panel over there. And the first speaker we're going to have is Rosalie Board, who is an independent member of the ESRC Research Committee, who was involved in the work that went into those large-scale collaborations about community mobilisation I touched on a moment or two ago. So Rosalie?
Okay, thank you. Oh gosh, suddenly my voice is booming around the hall. I'm absolutely delighted to be here in my capacity as a member of the Research Committee of the Economic and Social Research Council. And in thinking about why the Connected Communities programme is important, why it matters, just looking at the delegates list and just looking at all the different individuals and groups and organisations represented here today from diverse communities, as well as the many researchers that are going to be showcasing their work during the day from the Connected Communities projects, is in itself sort of testimony really to why the Connected Communities programme matters. We're all here because we share a common commitment and interest in our communities, in the people in them and their well-being. As a major research programme, Connected Communities, I think, is a very good example of how researchers and communities are working together, hopefully to the mutual benefit of both. And as has been mentioned today, we're launching a number of projects, and ESRC is delighted to be co-funding 4 of those that we're going to be launching today. There are 2 large grants in the community engagement and mobilisation theme and 2 grants in the communities, cultures, health and wellbeing theme being launched today. And in co-funding and collaborating on the Connected Communities programme, it provides us, I think, with an opportunity to address some of the priorities that each of the individual research councils have. So in the case of the ESRC, to address one of our 3 priorities around a vibrant and fair society. And I think this is also a good example of the way in which the lead research council, the Arts and Humanities Research Council, and the ESRC in these cases are working collaboratively across quite different disciplines. To illustrate some of these points further, I just want to talk a bit about the Community Engagement and Mobilisation project around imagining different communities and making them happen. It offers opportunities for cross-disciplinary innovation, bringing together different disciplinary insights, approaches and methods. It brings together researchers across sociology, social policy, education, anthropology, health, human geography, history, architecture, English literature, visual arts and music, amongst others. It has several international partners from the United States, Canada, Crete, Norway, Germany, Australia and India. But I think one of the key strengths for me is the way that this particular programme has been committed to community engagement right from the outset, right from all stages of the process. So for example, during the commissioning process, an innovative community engagement process was piloted in which the shortlisted teams for the large grants took part in a dialogue day to discuss their project ideas with a diverse group of community members and individuals. And this fed into the development of the applicants' full applications. This approach followed through in the 2 funded large grants in which community partners play a key role in shaping component research projects. So in the Imagining Different Communities project, a range of community partners involved is impressive. 30 partners, including local authorities, museums and galleries, charities and foundations, a prison, youth and health projects, music and writers groups, libraries, a women's centre, and an Caribbean community centre, amongst others. So I'm very excited by all of this, and I think it's a really good indication of why the programme is important. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about some of the excellent work that's being done across all of the projects funded by connected communities that's being showcased today. And I hope that we can all, in our different individual roles, take something away from the day so that we can carry on connecting our communities for the better. Thank you.
Our second speaker is Karen Brookfield, who's Deputy Director of Strategy and Business Development at the Heritage Lottery Fund, and has been very involved in the projects we've been funding with the HLF.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and not only talk this morning, but share in this fantastic event. And it's going to take me quite a challenge to get round all the projects that are exhibiting here today, and I really look forward to that. The Heritage Lottery Fund, since it was established in 1994, has funded projects that benefit communities the length and breadth of the United Kingdom. We're just entering a new strategic framework where is it a mission statement, is it a strapline, a lasting difference for heritage people and communities. So you can see immediately that communities are extremely important to us, people and the stuff. And honestly, believe me, if culture is a difficult word and community is a difficult word, heritage is a difficult word as well. And I think if you'd asked people in 1994, when HLF was first established, what they thought of it, they probably would have said country houses, old masters, iconic places, probably someone else's past, and quite possibly not for the likes of me. And I'd like to fast forward through our history, we don't have very long, to 2013, and a very different picture, which is seen through one particular lens that Mark has already referred to. This slide is coming, which is the All Our Stories programme. 540 community heritage projects, and many of them actually represented in some shape or form here today. So I do encourage you to go and look at the exhibitors, and we'll come back to why they're here. An investment of £5 million from HLF, funding projects looking at every kind of heritage, tangible, intangible, buildings, customs, food, fossils, landscapes, significant events, memories, transport, industry, and I think, importantly, the stuff that makes community. I don't think you can disentangle all of those. I think that is inherently community of place, community of interest, community now, and community of the future. So for us, not just about the past, and not just about the past for any of you I know. All of those groups would subscribe to the view that heritage is what we value and want to hand on to the future. They're looking at it themselves, they're discovering it, they're researching. Sometimes they might use the word researching in that project. They don't always. But they are exploring, they are researching, they are disseminating. I doubt if anyone uses that in an HLF project. And they are making an impact, very definitely. You just have to go out, talk to the people, look at it, see that. And for a significant number of those projects, they're working now in a brand new way with the universities, the researchers who are part of our partnership, which is why I think connected communities matters. HLF's very proud to be in that partnership because for us it's a big, brave step. I think AHRC would agree it's quite a big, brave step as well, joining with a different kind of funder, funding very small projects. We were overwhelmed by the demand. That was very challenging. We've all had to get to grips with that. About 150 of the projects are working with researchers in universities. And I just want to share a personal insight as well. The germ of the idea was born at an event like this. In the summer of 2010, when Paul Manners, the director of the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement, invited me to come and share ideas, a bit like today, lots of people from different perspectives. We watched a clip of Michael Wood's forthcoming series, as it was at the time, the story of England, actually looking at Kibworth in Leicestershire. And it's really interesting that the East Midlands is one of the great strengths of this partnership. And I thought, and I'll be really honest, and you might not agree with me, but wouldn't it be great if every project had access to a Michael Wood? Now, we can discuss whether that's Michael himself or it's what he embodies: enthusiasm, expertise, knowledge, research. We developed all our stories. AHRC colleagues developed alongside us, thinking, actually, there's something in here. We could do something with this. We could get people to come together, share that, do things together. It led to wonderful applications to us, and even when we couldn't fund all of them, they're still wonderful projects, and it's really great that some of them can have another life. Thank you, AHRC, for the additional money. And now that the projects are in delivery, they're really wonderful. They're just starting out. but it is early days, and so there isn't a great deal yet to share from that. But I just wanted to share one thing, and it's another of the projects being supported by Cambridge University in this instance. It's the Coconuts Project. And it's not about food, it's about football. Football is a common theme, food and football, things that perhaps bind people together quite often. Cambridge University team are here today, it's really great to see them. Lindsay, the project manager, I'd just like to read a very quick quote from her. The university has been a great help. They went through each of our outcomes in our project, suggesting how they could support us and highlighting any challenges we might not have thought of. We were also able to meet with a range of different professionals and gain their insights on our plans. The training days have really helped us focus on what needed to be achieved and the best way to do it. Thanks to the university support, we now have a wide range of partnerships which will benefit the club long after the completion of the project. And she did mention also that it helps to bridge the town-gown divide. So there are benefits you know you might be going to get, and there are all sorts of other benefits from this. That's a really great example. There are many of them today, and I look forward to talking to everybody about the current ones. But I'm also particularly delighted to be sitting here, actually taking a moment out for me from discussing the centenary of the First World War, which really occupies a lot of my life at the moment, and one of my colleagues who's with me today. But we're really delighted that we're going to be working in partnership again, because I think with something like a commemoration, and we will be all going to the session on commemoration later, something like that, we really want to help communities look at it with different perspectives, look in the right way, and they will enormously value the contribution that connected communities will bring. So thank you, AHRC, and let's set off on phase 2. Thank you very much.
And our next speaker is Sophia de Souza, who's the Chief Executive of the Glasshouse Community-Led Design.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. I've been asked to speak from the perspective of what is sometimes called a research partner, sometimes a community partner, but those brought in to work with academics and research institutions to explore new things. In a sense, we are a bit of a poster child for this work. We're involved in 7 different projects in one way or another, and we both are collaborating with the University of Sheffield on a collaborative doctoral award and involved in a number of different research projects, many of which are represented here today, Creative Citizens over there, Value of Community-Led Design, and others. I think what I would like to just mention very briefly is what does it do for us? What is our interest stepping into the academic world and engaging in a conversation with a diverse group of people who are outside our everyday world of practice? For us, it was very important to think about stepping back. We are an organisation that supports communities on the ground, and for 12 years have been doing this very active on-the-ground support to communities, shaping their places. But a couple of years ago, we took a step back and thought, okay, we've been going. We've been helping groups on the ground who have been going. But this movement of community-led design needs to take a look at the evidence that's been gathered, the stories that have been gathered, capture some learning and share it, but also bring some new ideas and perspectives to our work. So that was really our starting point for getting involved. Now, there have been some odd moments for me along the way, one of which was sitting in a workshop on the complexity theory for a project we were involved in on complexity in the creative economy, and I had a moment of thinking, how does this really relate to us? And I turned to my research partner and said, how do we fit into the complexity theory? And he said, Sophia, you are the queen of complexity, which I didn't know how to take. But then I understood, and what it was about was applying actually some academic rigor to what we believed was important. It was bringing together a number of different stakeholders, and this is what actually this whole theme is all about. It's bringing together a number of different people, different disciplines, different life experiences, different worlds in many ways, to come together and create a shared vision for change in some way. Now, through another project, we're looking at the same workshop that we applied the complexity theory to looking at how different research partners can come together and create their shared vision for moving research forward, for developing a research question. And so for us, there is a real excitement, I suppose, in how our work that we do, very practical work, can actually be explored through a greater approach to design theory, can be applied to community development and business development in ways that we haven't had time to think about, frankly. So that's very exciting, but also for us to bring in some tools that came through working with our research partners. We now regularly do workshops which borrow ideas from workshops we did collaboratively with our research partners. We are learning new methodologies, and indeed many of the projects that we're involved in are developing shared methodologies that we can then take out and give to the communities that we work with and expand that work out. And I think for me, the really important thing about all of us in the room today is that we come representing a community of interest, a group of people who tend to focus on an area of work and mixing it up with people who have a shared passion about something. And through that shared passion and that interest in exploration, we can then take back, extract learning, extract ideas, creative ideas, and take them back to the people that we work with in our everyday lives, and take them out into our wider communities and communities of interest.
And finally, our fellowship double act. I think you're going to do your presentation together. George McKay and Keri Facer, the Theme Leadership Fellows for Connected Communities.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, we're a double act. We're the Morecambe and Wise of the Connected Communities programme, or the French and Saunders, perhaps. And I just want to, first of all, introduce Keri and me, and talk briefly about our roles. I'm George McKay from the University of Salford, and my key area within the Connected Communities programme is to look at the place of arts and humanities research, arts and humanities activity within it. You know, I come from that background, and that's the brief that I've been giving, that I bidded for when I was thinking about this programme in the first place. Keri's Professor Keri Facer from the University of Bristol. Keri is focusing on university and community relations in her area of expertise. So it's important, you know, that we have these, that we've got these two different sort of approaches to things. And what are our jobs in terms of being leadership fellows? Well, I think really a lot of it's to do with making the programme bigger than the sum of its parts, in identifying connections, creating connections, identifying gaps, trying to find out where we might be able to make new things happen, trying to bring people and ideas, best practice, problems, and so on, trying to bring them together and shape the programme, actually. I mean, we have come into the programme when it's already established. We hope to have more of a role in shaping funding calls, the priorities, some of the future directions of it in the next few years, too.
Okay, so just a little bit about why I got involved in this. I mean, I have a background both inside universities and outside them, and for me it was a huge privilege to be involved in this programme, because I think this is about rethinking universities. I think this is about asking the big question, what are universities for? And I think this programme, with all of its thousands of people involved, is a huge opportunity to really think that through. And I think we're doing it in three different ways. I think we're building a new set of methods for collaborative research. We're tackling the hard questions about how do we combine the creativity, the assets, the insights of communities with academic research. And I think what we can do together is think through the complexities of that, because it isn't always straightforward. And I think we can learn from each other, and we can learn collectively about what the difficulties are, what some of the tensions are, what the questions are around equity, who is and who isn't involved in this collaboration. So the aim really for me is to think about how we build an intelligent repertoire of approaches between us and collaboratively to do this new sort of research. I think the second thing that we're doing when we're rethinking universities is also really changing the universities themselves, which means changing the disciplines. And I think there's all sorts of us who are trying to work through the question of, well, What does it mean to be a historian when I'm working with a cohort of collaborators, of community archaeologists and community heritage? What is my job as a historian in that relationship? What does it mean to be a medic or a biologist when I'm working in collaboration with patients, with activist groups who are pointing out to me the failures of the traditional medical system? What does it mean to be a sociologist when we're also activists? So there are interesting questions about rechanging the university. And I think what we're trying to do together is really use this as an opportunity to rethink and reshape universities. It's about building a movement to critically reflect amongst us, thousands of us, on what it is to do public research together.
Okay, and think of it from my end. If I'm thinking about connected communities and why I see this program mattering, what the attractiveness of it is. For me, in the first instance, I'm a professor of cultural studies. I work in a media studies department. I have a PhD in English literature. I write mainly about music, and I co-founded a journal on social movements with sociologists and political scientists. So I think it's an energizing plurality of codes as you move across and between disciplinary boundaries. Someone else might say you're a jack of all trades, but nonetheless. And I think that the cross-disciplinarity of this program is a really, really vital part of it. And that manifests itself for me in, quite a simple way, really, in trying to get more arts and humanities scholars, including myself, to working within a social context. Effectively, I've always been doing that. I've been writing about activism, about cultures of resistance, about alternative communities for 2 decades, and I've always been concerned and interested and intrigued with the ways in which culture works, presents challenges, envisions some version of a different kind of world, if it does that. But also, it's not just to do with arts and humanities in a social context. It's to do with the focus of something as very specific as, say, community arts. I'm very interested in community and participatory arts, and in working with community partners, artists, creative practitioners. Again, I've done a lot of that before I was an academic. I was a community musician, in fact. And so from that end, as soon as I saw connected communities, I thought, well, that's me, and then I'm going to get some of that money. And fortunately, they gave me a small amount, and then they gave me some more. So that's really great, and I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted about that. More widely, what does it mean in terms of the program as a whole? Well, since we've been in it over the last few months, I've found out a few important aspects that I wasn't perhaps fully aware of. For instance, one of the things that Connected Communities is trying to do is to build a community of researchers. We're trying to encourage, to bring together the academics that want to work in this kind of way, and also the newer academics that aren't fazed by silo mentalities or monodisciplinarity and so on. We want to bring those together, fund them. It's a big deal. Get funding, and that is a really important part of it. So that we'll be able to, our mechanisms for building this community of scholars include, we have an annual summit. We're going to be focusing on the needs of our early career researchers within the program, and we've got large cross-disciplinary teams with lots of different levels of academics and community partners involved in them. And we've got a significant mechanism of follow-on funding. All of those are about building this constituency of like-minded scholars. The second thing for me out of these three is that there's something challenging in research questions being articulated or co-articulated by community partners. There's a certain liberatory and also anxiety-inducing worry in academics letting go of what was previously our terrain, of we set the research question. Hey, good news, academics parachuting into a community organisation with our batch of research questions, and then aren't you delighted, that we're here? Well, things are changing round. We want things to change round. Like Keri's saying, we want to refigure what it means to be a university academic, a university researcher. And the last thing I'd say is just to pick up what has already been said a couple of times. The really Why Connected Communities matters is also because it's so ambitious and it's so large scale. Over 250 projects already funded, over 400 community partners. And how long do we plan to go on for? Is it 8, 10 years? Do you know, Mark? A long time, anyway. A long time, there you go, you heard it from the man himself. And so that's another reason, I think, why it matters, because it's got commitment and funding resource behind it, and it's there for the long term.
And so just to finish up, basically we're looking at trying to work with you, with partners, with colleagues to add up to more than the sum of our parts. And over the next year, we'll be doing all sorts of activities, but this will include things like a new community partner network that's being led by NCCPE and colleagues at Brighton, because we think it's really important that community partners have networks independent of academics in order to ask good, hard questions. We'll be going global. There will be an international conference next year where we can figure out how this sort of work is part of an international movement of reframing and rethinking how you do research. We'll be hitting the festivals. Ask George about that. And we'll also be thinking about what the work is on common themes. There are themes that are emerging from this programme. There are serious challenges. So issues around food, issues around water, I know, is an interesting thing emerging. Questions around how we tackle the challenges that are common to us as academics and communities. And it's interesting for me to sit here watching pictures up on that screen of protests in Stokes Croft. And I think one of the things that this programme allows us to remember as academics is we don't live on another planet. We are actually also part of communities. And this programme gives us an opportunity as researchers to build that sort of powerful relationship with community organisations and community partners as academics. So we think it's about building movement.
Well, thank you to all our speakers in the opening panel. They will all be around for the course of today, so you can very much pick up those conversations. And Keri and George will join me in a final round table at the end of today, which will be discussing the future of the programme, maybe picking up on some of the debates that will have been taking place during the course of today, but also other ideas that have come forward over the course of recent years and months, and particularly the work that Keri and George are doing out there communicating with you as the researchers and the partners on the projects.